Return to a forgotten home. The vast armada of ships emerged from hyperspace like a constellation being born, their sleek hulls gleaming in the light of Sol. Commander Ilara Nash stood on the observation deck of the Arcturus, humanity's flagship, her storm-gray eyes fixed on the blue-green planet ahead. Earth, humanity's birthplace, abandoned 30 millennia ago, now finally within reach again. 30,000 years, she whispered, her breath fogging the transparent aluminum viewport. We've finally come home. Admiral Torin approached quietly, his weathered face solemn. The fleet is in position, Commander. All systems nominal. We're ready to begin the reclamation protocol. Nash nodded, not taking her eyes off the planet. Look at it, Torin. It's still beautiful. I half expected a wasteland. Earth shimmered in the blackness of space, more vibrant than any simulation or historical record could capture. The oceans were bluer, the landmasses greener, the cloud patterns more intricate. It looked alive, thriving in humanity's absence. Initial scans show breathable atmosphere, reported Science Officer Lyon, joining them at the viewport. Radiation levels normal. The planet appears to have healed itself. Nash allowed herself a small smile. When humanity had fled Earth during the Great Collapse, the planet had been dying, poisoned by pollution, nuclear fallout, and climate disaster. The exodus had been the only option for survival, a desperate flight to the stars with no certainty of success. And now we return as conquerors of the galaxy, Torin said with pride. From refugees to the most advanced civilization in known space. It was true. In 30 millennia, humanity had evolved, adapted, and thrived among the stars. They'd encountered other intelligent species, formed alliances, fought wars, and ultimately emerged as one of the dominant forces in their corner of the galaxy. Their technology had advanced beyond the wildest dreams of their ancestors. Antimatter drives, gravity manipulation, planet-scale engineering. They could bend space and time, cure any disease, extend life indefinitely. But they had never forgotten Earth. "Sir," called out the communications officer, her voice tense, "we're picking up transmissions from the surface." Nash turned sharply. Impossible. Earth was uninhabitable when we left. There shouldn't be anyone capable of transmissions. The signals are structured, the officer insisted. Definitely artificial, not random noise. Nash frowned. Can you decode them? Working on it. They're unlike anything in our databases. The cold feeling settled in Nash's stomach. In the 3 decades since the reclamation project had begun, all surveys had indicated Earth was recovering ecologically but devoid of intelligent life. The mission parameters were clear. Assess, land, rebuild, restart human civilization on their ancestral home while maintaining their interstellar empire. No one had planned for inhabitants. Launch reconnaissance drones, Nash ordered. I want visual confirmation before we send anyone down. Within minutes, the observation deck screens filled with real-time footage as high-atmosphere drones descended toward the planet. The images showed vast forests where cities had once stood, mountains where there had been plains, and oceans that had reclaimed coastal regions. Nature had reshaped the Earth entirely. Magnify Sector 47B, Nash instructed, pointing to an area that historical records identified as the former North American continent. The image zoomed in, revealing what appeared to be structures among the trees. Not human architecture, but something organic yet clearly designed. Massive tree-like formations twisted into impossible shapes, forming what looked like living cities. What are we looking at? Torin asked, his voice hushed. Before anyone could answer, the drone feed from Sector 47B cut to static. We've lost contact, reported the tech officer. Drone is offline. Malfunction, Nash asked. Negative. Readings indicated was destroyed. A heavy silence fell over the command deck. Nash straightened her uniform. Decision made. Prepare a drop team. Full combat protocol. I'm leading the first reconnaissance. Admiral Torin started to protest, But Nash cut him off. "This is first contact, Admiral. And it's Earth. I need to see it with my own eyes." 2 hours later, Nash stood in the dropship bay, surrounded by 20 of the fleet's most elite soldiers. Their exo-armor gleamed, a marvel of technology that made each soldier nearly invulnerable to conventional weapons. They carried pulse rifles, gravity disruptors, and neural scramblers, non-lethal options for unknown encounters. "Remember," Nash addressed the team, "we don't know what we're facing. Priority is information gathering. Engage only if threatened." The dropship detached from the Arcturus with barely a shudder, its stealth systems rendering it nearly invisible as it descended through Earth's atmosphere. Nash watched through the viewports as clouds gave way to a panorama of wild, riotous life below. Forests stretched where historical maps showed cities should be. Rivers ran in channels that didn't match any record. "It's like the planet rewrote itself," Lieutenant Kira said beside her. The ship touched down in a clearing surrounded by enormous trees. As the hatch opened, Nash was the first to step onto Earth's soil, the first human to do so in 30,000 years. The air hit her first, rich, thick, heavy with oxygen and the scent of vegetation. It filled her lungs like something alive, almost intoxicating after a lifetime of recycled ship air. The gravity felt strange too, natural in a way that artificial gravity never quite managed. "Secure the perimeter," she ordered, her voice steady despite the emotion threatening to overwhelm her. This was Earth, the almost mythical homeland of humanity. The team spread out, sensors scanning in all directions. Nash knelt and touched the soil, feeling its texture between her armored fingers. Somewhere above, the Arcturus and the rest of the fleet waited for her report. Billions of humans across dozens of colony worlds waited to hear if their ancestral home was truly habitable again. "Commander," Lieutenant Kira's voice came through the comm, tight with tension. "You need to see this." Nash followed Kira's signal to the edge of the clearing, where the massive trees gave way to what appeared to be an intentional structure, a living wall of intertwined vegetation that couldn't possibly be natural. "It's a boundary marker," Nash realized aloud. "A border." Before anyone could respond, the ground beneath them trembled. Not an earthquake, something more rhythmic, like footsteps. "Movement at 2 o'clock, called one of the soldiers. Large signature approaching fast. Nash turned toward the coordinates just as the trees parted and a figure emerged, towering, at least 3 meters tall, humanoid but clearly not human. Its skin had the texture of bark, with glowing amber veins running beneath the surface. Its face was almost human, with deep-set eyes that glowed the same amber color. Behind it came others, dozens of the same beings, each slightly different in appearance, but unmistakably of the same species. They carried no visible weapons, but Nash sensed they didn't need any. "Hold fire," she ordered her team, who had instinctively raised their weapons. She took a step forward, hands raised in a universal gesture of peace. "We come in peace. I am Commander Ilara Nash of the United Earth Fleet." The tallest of the beings tilted its head, studying her with those luminous eyes. Then, to Nash's shock, it spoke, the words flowing like water over stone, in a language that sounded impossibly ancient yet vaguely familiar. "You are the abandoned ones," it said, the words translated through Nash's neural implant. "The ones who left when Earth was dying." Nash's breath caught. "You know of us." "Earth remembers," the being replied. "We are Terrans. We were born of Earth's pain, shaped from what remained when you fled. This world is ours now." Nash struggled to comprehend. These beings hadn't evolved naturally. They had been created somehow, born from Earth itself. A new species that had filled the ecological niche left by humanity's absence. "We have returned to our homeworld," she explained carefully. "We wish to re-establish human presence on Earth." The Terran leader's expression didn't change, but the amber veins beneath its bark-like skin pulsed more intensely. "This is no longer your world. You abandoned it when it was broken. We healed it. We protected it. Earth belongs to those who stayed. Before Nash could respond, a high-pitched whine cut through the air. One of her soldiers had activated a weapon. "Stand down," she shouted, but it was too late. The soldier fired. Whether from fear or misunderstanding, it didn't matter. The energy pulse never reached the Terrans. It dissipated against an invisible barrier, the air shimmering like heat waves. The Terran leader raised a hand, and the ground beneath the soldier who had fired erupted, vines shooting upward with impossible speed, enveloping him before anyone could react. The soldier's scream cut off abruptly as the vines tightened. "No," Nash shouted, drawing her own weapon instinctively. The Terran leader's voice rumbled like distant thunder. "You bring weapons to a world that remembers your destruction. You have learned nothing in your long absence." With a gesture from the Terran, the forest itself seemed to come alive around them. Trees bent, roots emerged from the soil, vines slithered across the ground. The reconnaissance team found themselves surrounded, outmatched by a power that they couldn't comprehend. "Fall back to the ship," Nash ordered, firing her pulse rifle to clear a path through the animated vegetation. The team fought desperately, cutting through vines and dodging swinging branches, but 3 more soldiers were caught before they could retreat. Nash was the last to board the dropship, firing cover as the surviving team members scrambled inside. As the hatch began to close, she locked eyes with the Terran leader. "This isn't over," she promised, unsure if the being could hear her. The Terran's response came not in words but directly into her mind, a pressure of alien thoughts against her consciousness. "You abandoned Earth once. You will do so again." The dropship lifted off, accelerating through the atmosphere toward the safety of the fleet. Nash collapsed into a seat, removing her helmet with shaking hands. 4 soldiers lost in minutes. Earth controlled by an entirely new intelligent species with powers they couldn't understand. Nothing about the mission was going as planned. Back aboard the Arcturus, the command staff gathered in stunned silence as Nash played back the encounter footage. Admiral Torin's face darkened with each passing moment. "So Earth has new masters," he said when the recording ended. "These Terrans. They're connected to the planet somehow," Nash explained. "They can control the vegetation, maybe the geology too. They claimed they were born from what was left when we abandoned Earth." Science Officer Lyon leaned forward. "A post-human species, perhaps, or something entirely new that evolved to fill our ecological niche." "It doesn't matter what they are," Torin said firmly. "Earth belongs to humanity. It's our birthright. We've spent generations planning this return." Nash frowned. "They said we abandoned it. In a way, they're right. We had no choice." Torin snapped. "The planet was dying. We left to survive. And now they're asking us to do the same," Nash pointed out. "To leave again." The room fell silent as the implications settled over everyone. 30,000 years of dreams and planning. The grand reclamation of humanity's birthplace, now threatened by an unforeseen obstacle. "We have the technology to take the planet by force," said General Crane, the fleet's military commander. His eyes gleamed with cold calculation. "Orbital bombardment could eliminate the Terran population centers we've identified. Our ground force is cold." "No," Nash interrupted. "We didn't come all this way to destroy Earth again. There has to be another solution." "What do you suggest?" Torin asked, his tone making it clear he expected a viable alternative. Nash stared at the holographic image of Earth rotating above the conference table. Something about the Terrans nagged at her, their connection to the planet, their knowledge of humanity's past. "The transmissions we detected," she said slowly. "I want to analyze them more carefully. And I want to send smaller, less threatening expeditions to other parts of the planet. Let's gather more information before we decide on a course of action." Torin nodded reluctantly. "You have 48 hours, Commander. After that, we need a decision. Either we reclaim Earth, or we abandon the mission and inform the colonies that our ancestral home is lost to us forever." As the meeting dispersed, Nash remained, watching the holographic Earth spin slowly before her. Somewhere on that beautiful blue-green sphere, a species born in humanity's absence was preparing to defend its home against those who had returned to claim it. The irony wasn't lost on her. Humanity had flooded a dying Earth only to return millennia later as conquerors, expecting to find a healed world waiting for them. Instead, they found that Earth had moved on without them, creating new children to replace those who had abandoned it. Whatever happened next would determine not just the future of humanity, but the fate of Earth itself. And Nash was increasingly uncertain which side deserved to prevail. Legacy of Two Worlds. Dawn broke over the Arcturus as Commander Ilara Nash reviewed the new data from the overnight drone surveys. Sleep had eluded her, the encounter with the Terrans replaying in her mind. The holographic displays around her office showed Earth's transformed continents, the living cities of the Terrans spread across what had once been human population centers. Computer, enhance Sector 100 and 3D, she commanded. The hologram zoomed in on a region once known as Europe. Unlike the dense forest cities they'd encountered in North America, this area showed peculiar geometric patterns beneath dense vegetation, straight lines, and perfect circles visible only from orbit. Those are ruins, Lieutenant Kira observed, entering Nash's office with 2 steaming bugs. She handed one to Nash. Human ruins. Nash accepted the coffee gratefully. Not just ruins. Look at the regularity. Those are bunkers. Deep ones. They discovered similar structures scattered across the planet. Massive underground complexes built during the final years before the Exodus. Most were presumed destroyed or irrecoverable, but these readings suggested otherwise. Could there be? Kira hesitated, the implication almost too incredible to voice. Survivors. Nash finished. After 30,000 years. Impossible. Yet the data didn't lie. Something was generating power signatures from those ancient bunkers. The comm panel chimed. Commander, General Crane requests your presence in the war room immediately. Nash's stomach tightened. Crane had been pushing for military action since their arrival, and a lost reconnaissance team had only strengthened his position. I'll be right there, she responded, draining her coffee. Kira, prepare a stealth team. If those bunkers contain what I think they might, we need to investigate before Crane can use it to justify an assault. The war room buzzed with activity when Nash arrived. Officers huddled around tactical displays, their faces grim. In the center, General Crane and Admiral Torren stood before a projection of Earth, red markers indicating Terran settlements. Commander Nash, Crane acknowledged coolly. We were just discussing our response to yesterday's unprovoked attack. Nash bristled. Our soldier fired first, General. After being threatened, Crane countered. These creatures made their intentions clear. They won't share Earth with its rightful inheritors. We don't fully understand what we're dealing with, Nash argued. The Terrans have some kind of symbiotic relationship with the planet itself. Any attack could have unforeseen consequences. Crane's eyes narrowed. Your caution borders on dereliction, Commander. Humanity has waited 30 millennia to reclaim our birthright. Are we to be denied by some evolutionary accident? They're sentient beings, Nash shot back. With language, culture, and technology we barely comprehend. That demands respect, not extermination. Admiral Torren raised his hands, silencing them both. We've detected unusual activity in what appears to be the Terran Central Settlement. Drone footage before transmission was lost shows large gatherings, possibly military preparations. The hologram shifted to grainy footage of hundreds of Terrans converging on a massive structure that resembled a living cathedral made of intertwined trees. Their movements were coordinated, purposeful. They're preparing to attack our fleet, Crane declared. I recommend immediate preemptive strikes. Or they're preparing to defend themselves because they detected our surveillance, Nash countered. Admiral, I've discovered evidence of functioning human bunkers. Deep shelters from before the Exodus. There might be human survivors. The room fell silent. Admiral Torren's weathered face showed the first genuine surprise Nash had seen since their arrival. That's Impossible, he finally said. 30,000 years ago, we thought surviving among the stars was impossible too. Nash reminded him. Let me investigate before we commit to any military action. Torin stroked his beard thoughtfully. If there are human survivors, that changes everything. It changes nothing, Crane interjected. Even if some humans survived in bunkers, they'd been isolated for millennia. They're relics, not representatives of modern humanity. They're witnesses, Nash insisted. They might understand the Terrans in ways we can't. They might be the key to a peaceful resolution. After tense deliberation, Torin approved Nash's mission. 4 hours later, she led a small stealth team toward the European continent in a scout ship equipped with the fleet's most advanced cloaking technology. Remember, Nash instructed her team as they approached the landing zone. We're here to observe and make contact if possible. No weapons unless absolutely necessary. The scout ship touched down in a clearing near one of the bunker signatures. Unlike the lush forests of their first landing site, this area was rocky, with sparse vegetation clinging to steep hillsides. Perfect terrain for hiding underground facilities. Nash's team followed the power signature to what appeared to be a sheer rock face. Scanning equipment revealed hollow spaces beyond. There's an entrance mechanism here, reported Engineer Sato, examining a section of rock. Sophisticated camouflage, still functional after all this time. With careful manipulation, Sato activated the ancient mechanism. The rock face shimmered and then split open, revealing a dark corridor that extended deep into the mountain. Breathable atmosphere inside, Sato confirmed. And the power readings are stronger. Nash took point, leading her team into humanity's past. The corridor was lined with emergency lighting that flickered to life as they passed, responding to movement after millennia of dormancy. The air smelled stale but not dead. Filtration systems still functioned at minimal capacity. After descending for nearly a kilometer, they reached a massive circular door bearing the faded insignia of the pre-Exodus Earth Defense Force. "This is it," Nash whispered, an unexpected wave of emotion tightening her throat. "Open it." The door's mechanisms groaned in protest, but eventually yielded. As it swung open, Nash's light illuminated a vast chamber beyond. And movement. "Hold position," she ordered, stepping forward alone. From the shadows emerged figures, human figures. They wore simple clothing made from synthesized materials, their skin pale from generations underground. They looked human, but different, taller and more slender than modern humans, with larger eyes adapted to low light. An elderly man stepped forward, leaning on a staff fashioned from what appeared to be metal and circuitry. His eyes widened as he took in Nash's appearance. "You came back," he said, his accent strange to Nash's ears. The language recognizable as English, but archaic, preserved like an insect in amber for 30 millennia. "I am Commander Ilara Nash of the United Earth Fleet." She introduced herself, removing her helmet. "We've returned to reclaim our homeworld." The old man's expression shifted to something between sadness and amusement. "Reclaim? You cannot reclaim what you freely abandoned, Starchild." He introduced himself as Archon Thomas, leader of the Preservers, descendants of those who had chosen to remain on Earth, believing it their duty to steward what remained of human knowledge and culture until the planet healed. "We expected your return," Thomas explained as he led Nash through the bunker complex. Though perhaps not after so long. The facility was a marvel of pre-Exodus engineering, a self-sustaining habitat designed to house thousands for centuries. Now it held perhaps a few hundred humans, living simple lives centered around maintaining ancient technologies and traditions. "Did you know about the Terrans?" Nash asked. Thomas nodded solemnly. "We watched them emerge. At first, we thought them monsters. Mutations born from radiation and genetic manipulation run amok. But as we observed them over generations, we recognized their intelligence, their purpose." "And what is that purpose?" "To heal Earth," Thomas said simply. "To become what humanity refused to be, caretakers rather than consumers." He led Nash to a circular chamber where holographic displays showed Terran settlements across the globe. The preservers had been monitoring them for millennia. They knew we were here, Thomas continued. From the beginning. They could have destroyed us any time, but they recognized us as the remnant, the witnesses. We've established communication, a symbiosis of sorts. Nash struggled to process the implications. You're saying they're not hostile. They remember humanity's destruction, Thomas clarified. They fear your return means a repeat of the past. When your ships appeared in orbit, the Terrans came to us, seeking understanding. We need to talk to them, Nash decided. Together, you could be our intermediaries. Thomas studied her with ancient eyes that seemed to see through her. And what would you have us say? That humanity has changed. Has it? Before Nash could answer, her comm unit crackled to life. Lieutenant Kira's voice came through, panicked. Commander, General Crane has launched an assault. Dropships just departed the fleet. They are heading for the main Terran settlement. Nash's blood ran cold. Crane is acting against orders. Patch me through to Admiral Torin immediately. But the connection to the fleet was being jammed. Nash turned to Thomas, desperation in her eyes. I need to stop this before it's too late. Will you help me reach the Terrans? Thomas considered her request, then nodded gravely. There is a way. The Terrans created connections across the planet, living pathways through the planet's biosphere. We've used them with their permission. As Thomas led Nash and her team deeper into the facility, she contacted the scout ship, ordering an emergency message sent to the fleet. If they couldn't stop Crane's assault force in orbit, they'd have to intervene on the ground. They entered what appeared to be a natural cavern, but the walls pulsed with the same amber luminescence Nash had seen in the Terran veins. At the center grew what looked like a tree, its roots extending into the rock, its branches reaching toward a crack in the ceiling through which sunlight streamed. The Terrans call it the Nexus, Thomas explained, a living network that spans the globe. Through it, they can sense everything that happens on Earth. He placed his hand on the trunk, and the amber veins brightened in response. They know you're here, Commander. They will listen. Nash stepped forward hesitantly, placing her palm against the smooth bark. Instantly, her mind expanded, consciousness stretching beyond her body, flowing through the Nexus. She felt the planet beneath her, alive and aware in ways she'd never imagined. And she felt the Terrans, their collective consciousness acknowledging her presence. Why have you returned with weapons and hatred? The thought wasn't words but pure concept, flowing into her mind. Not all of us want war, Nash responded, focusing her thoughts. Some came to destroy, but others to understand, to find a way forward together. Images flooded her mind. Crane's dropships descending toward the Terran cathedral city. Troops deploying with heavy weapons. The Terrans were gathering, preparing defenses that would twist the very landscape against the invaders. Stop them, Nash pleaded. And I will stop ours. There can be peace. A new presence entered the connection. The Terran leader she had met in the forest. It identified itself as Sylvan, elder of the Earthborn. You speak truth, Skychild, Sylvan acknowledged. But your kind has already begun the destruction. Even now, they attack our heart city. Nash showed Sylvan her own truth. The fleet's original mission of peaceful reclamation, Crane's military coup, her discovery of the preservers. She offered a proposal. Cooperation instead of conflict, sharing Earth rather than claiming it exclusively. Earth has room for both children, she argued, those who left and those who remained. The connection broke suddenly as an explosion rocked the cavern. Dust and debris rained down as Nash staggered back from the Nexus tree. What was that? She demanded. Thomas's face was ashen. Your General Crane is nothing if not thorough. He's targeting all unusual energy signatures, including this bunker. Nash's comm unit crackled back to life. Admiral Torin's voice coming through broken and distorted. Nash. Crane has mutiny, seized control, attacking. Stop him. We need to get to the surface, Nash decided. Now. With Thomas's guidance, they took an emergency shaft to the surface, emerging on a hillside overlooking a valley. In the distance, they could see fiery explosions where Crane's forces engaged with Terran defenses. The sky above was split by energy weapons as part of the fleet battled itself, ships loyal to Torin firing on Crane's supporters. "This is madness," Nash whispered. Thomas pointed to a shimmer in the air nearby, a disturbance that coalesced into the towering form of Sylvan and several other Terrans. "You spoke truth through the Nexus," Sylvan said, its voice resonating in the air. "Now prove it with action." Nash stepped forward. "Help me stop Crane. Together we can end this before Earth suffers again." Sylvan extended a bark-textured hand toward Nash. "Earth will provide the way." When Nash took the offered hand, the ground beneath them shifted. Roots erupted from the soil, weaving into a platform that lifted them high into the air. The platform accelerated, carrying them toward the battlefield at impossible speed, the landscape blurring beneath them. They arrived at the edges of the Heart City as Crane's forces pushed deeper into the living structures. The general himself led from a combat mech, its weapons tearing through the Terran defenses. Each fallen Terran caused the entire city to shudder in pain. Nash could feel it through her connection with Sylvan. "Crane." Nash's voice boomed through her suit's amplifiers. "Stand down by order of Admiral Torin." The combat mech turned, its sensors focusing on Nash and her unlikely allies. Crane's voice crackled through external speakers. "Traitor, siding with these abominations against your own species." "They are our species," Nash shouted back, "born of Earth after we abandoned it. And they're not alone." She gestured to Thomas and the other preservers who had accompanied them. "Humanity never fully left Earth. We've been here all along, evolving in parallel paths." Crane's mech took a threatening step forward. "Pretty words to justify treason. Earth belongs to humanity. Real humanity. Not these mutants or cave-dwelling relics. Earth belongs to itself," Nash countered. "And it has chosen to support life in all its forms." As if in response to her words, the ground beneath Crane's forces shifted. Not violently. There was no attack. But the living city began to reshape itself, opening new pathways, revealing its inner structure. And from those openings emerged more preservers, humans who had lived in symbiosis with the Terrans for generations. In orbit, the battle between the fleet factions had reached a stalemate. Admiral Torin's loyalists had prevented Crane's supporters from deploying planet-destroying weapons, but neither side could claim victory. Nash opened a broad-spectrum channel, broadcasting to all human forces. "This is Commander Nash. I stand with both Earth's children, the humans who stayed and those they evolved alongside. We did not return to destroy our birthplace again, but to reconnect with it. General Crane does not speak for humanity's best interests." Sylvan stepped forward, its luminous eyes fixed on Crane's mech. "Your ancestors flooded a dying world. We were born from its ashes, shaped by its need for protectors. We are what Earth needed when humanity failed it. And we are what remained," Thomas added, his ancient voice carrying surprising strength. "The keepers of human memory, witnesses to Earth's rebirth. We learn to live in balance, a lesson our star-faring cousins must relearn." Crane's response was predictable. Weapons fire that tore through the air toward them. But the attack never landed. A shield of intertwined branches and energy materialized, absorbing the blast. "Enough," Nash commanded. "Earth doesn't want this conflict. Can't you feel it?" And indeed, something had changed in the atmosphere. A pressure, a presence that pressed against every consciousness. The planet itself seemed to be asserting its will, rejecting violence that would scar it once again. Crane's soldiers hesitated, weapons lowering as they felt the strange sensation. Even Crane himself paused, his mech frozen mid-stride. In that moment of hesitation, Nash acted. Using the fleet command codes Admiral Torin had entrusted to her, she activated the emergency override on Crane's combat systems. The mech shuddered and powered down, trapping the general inside. The fighting stopped, not through decisive victory, but through collective realization. As the dust settled, humans and Terrans stood facing each other across a battlefield that would bear no more scars that day. 1 week later, Commander Nash stood in a different clearing, one prepared specifically for this historic moment. Behind her stood Admiral Torin and representatives from the fleet. Opposite them were Sylvan and the Terran Council, and between them stood Thomas and the Preservers, living bridges between two branches of Earth's children. "Today we recognize a truth greater than our divisions," Nash announced, her voice carrying to the assembled representatives of 3 civilizations. "Earth never belonged to us. We belong to Earth. And now we return not as conquerors, but as one family seeking reunion." The treaty they signed that day was unprecedented, a 3-way covenant that established shared stewardship of the planet. Humans would return gradually, learning from both Terrans and Preservers how to live in harmony with a planet they had once exploited to the brink of death. General Crane and his most ardent supporters were returned to the stars, assigned to distant colonies where their militaristic tendencies might someday prove useful against genuine threats. Most of the fleet remained in orbit, a bridge between Earth and humanity's stellar colonies. As the ceremony concluded, Nash found herself standing beside Sylvan, watching humans, Preservers, and Terrans mingling cautiously, but with growing ease. 30,000 years, Nash mused. We needed that long apart to learn how to live together. Sylvan's amber eyes glowed with ancient wisdom. Time moves differently for Earth than for her children. For her, your departure and return are but moments in a much longer story. And what's the next chapter? Nash asked. Sylvan gestured toward the sky, where stars were beginning to appear as dusk fell. Earth has 2 kinds of children now, those rooted in her soil and those who reach for the stars. Together, perhaps we will achieve what neither could alone. Nash nodded, understanding. Earth's future would be neither purely human nor purely Terran, but something new, a civilization that combined humanity's cosmic ambition with the Terrans' deep connection to their world. As night fell completely, the Terrans began a ceremony of their own, a harmonious vibration that rose from thousands of throats, resonating with the earth beneath their feet. The Preservers joined in, adding human voices to the ancient song. After a moment's hesitation, Nash and the other returning humans added their own voices. The song spread across the planet, carried by the living network that connected all things, and for the first time in 30 millennia, Earth's voice included all her children, those who had left and returned, those who had stayed and endured, and those born from her need for healing. They were home, all of them, not as conquerors or